Um, Good evening and welcome, commissioners, applicants, and interested parties to the December 5th, 2024 meeting of the Cohasset Conservation Commission. My name is Valerio Romano. I'm the chair of the commission and will be running tonight's meeting as we implement the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, Chapter 260 of the Cohasset bylaws governing wetlands protection, and Chapter 263 of the bylaws governing stormwater management. The Conservation Commission meeting is now open and in session. It's being held on Zoom. If you have any questions for the commission, please type them into the Q&A section of the Zoom app. Please include your name and address to be recognized. When called, please limit your discussion to 3 minutes. Present this evening on behalf of the commission is the town's conservation agent, Charlotte Pechtel. I'll now take a roll call of the commissioners. Please respond by repeating your name and saying present. Tom Bell.
Tom Bell, present.
Steve Magnell.
Steve Magnell, present.
Kathy Berrigan.
Kathy Berrigan, present.
Chris McIntyre.
Oops, sorry. Chris is supposed to join, but maybe he might just be running a few minutes late.
Oh, sorry. I
Sorry
didn't
about that.
check.
I miscounted on my screens. Oh, there he is.
Oh, here he is, I bet. Hey, Chris, we're just getting started. You there?
I'm here, yep.
Chris McIntyre, present?
Present. Chris McIntyre, present.
Great. And Valerio Romano, obviously I'm present. So tonight we have a quorum of 5 commissioners. The first matter of business is the approval of our September 19th, 2024 meetings. Do I have a motion on regarding those minutes? Has anyone, have we had a chance to review? Do you want to,
Also, all of
Hey,
you were
Commissioner.
here on 9/19. All of you guys were here except for Sanji, who's not here. So
I move to approve the minutes.
Second.
any further discussion about the minutes? Hearing no, I think a voice vote will be sufficient. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the motion passes unanimously. The minutes for September 19th have been approved. Next, I'd like to let the public know that we're continuing the enforcement order for a non-permitted wetlands alteration at 34 Flintlock Ridge Road to January 9th, 2025. So if anyone's here for that, come back next year and we'll pick that up. Our first public hearing is a request for determination of applicability number 2419 by David and Pamela Waltz to raise and rebuild a home within the existing footprint at 183 Jerusalem Road. This hearing is now open. Charlotte, who from the applicant team is available? Is there anyone to promote?
yeah, so I'm promoting the applicant, and then I'm not sure. Oh, there we go. Also, Mr. Chair, did you read the public notice or?
Oops, sorry.
It's okay.
Which did I miss?
So the public notice, like the in accordance with Mass General, blah blah blah.
Oh yeah, sorry. I usually do that once at the top, but I didn't do it on this one. Give me 1 second. I apologize.
No worries.
So yes, in accordance with it, I sort of do this at the top. But yeah, in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetlands Bylaw and the Stormwater Bylaw, the Commission is holding its public hearing tonight, Thursday, December 5th, 2024 at 6:30 on Zoom for the RDA 24-19 to raise and reconstruct the single-family home partially within the coastal bank 100-foot buffer zone at 183 Jerusalem Road for Pamela and David Waltz. The public is invited to offer input by emailing Charlotte if you have already. You can also check details for accessing the Zoom platform at our agenda, at the Conservation Commission agenda at cohassetma.org.
Thank you.
So yeah, of course.
Hi, David. Is the applicants are in the audience, but I think they want to stay there for the moment. Is there anybody else on your team or?
Yes, so also joining us tonight would be Robert Lynn, their architect.
I don't see him in the list. There is a phone number, phone listener, so I don't know if that's him. Robert, if you're in the audience, if you can raise your hand. Oh, there we go. Got it. I see Moscow Lynn.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. There we go.
Hi, Robert.
Great.
And I'm so sorry. Can you guys just briefly introduce your names and affiliations for the record?
Yeah, sure.
Please.
I can get started. So thank you to the commission members for accepting our application for this project. My name is Dave Lapointe from Beals and Thomas. We have an office located in Plymouth. We're here on behalf of the applicants, Pamela and David Maltz. Also here tonight, as just mentioned, is Robert Lynn from Moscow Lynn Architects, their architect. And we are here tonight to discuss the request for determination of applicability for the project proposed at their property at 183 Jerusalem Road. And as was mentioned in the notice, the project consists of demolition of the existing two-story single-family house and reconstructing it within the same footprint. The house does currently sit within the outer 50-foot buffer zone to the coastal bank. And as I mentioned, the intent is to reconstruct the house within the same footprint, so keeping it within that outer 50-foot buffer zone. We understand that there were some things that were observed that had occurred out at the property in the last couple of days when Charlotte had made a site visit out there. I guess initially we'd prefer to maybe talk about the project that was submitted as part of the RDA, and then maybe we can kind of shift gears and talk about the other matters that have happened out on the property there. But initially, if we can just maybe go through the project and answer any questions related to the initial filing to kind of keep that.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah, let's do it that way. Go ahead
Yeah.
with the RDA discussion, and then we can pick up with the cutting.
Yeah, exactly. So really what I just mentioned in terms of reconstructing or demolition and then reconstructing the existing house on the same
Ben,
footprint.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Could you share your screen with the plans?
Sure, yep.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Just give me a second here. Just trying to pull it up here. Okay. Okay. Can you all see that now?
yes.
It's an aerial view, obviously. So you can see here the red line depicts the property boundary of their lot. And there's the existing structure towards the kind of back half of the property. The coastal bank would be located over here to the right. If I jump to another image, actually maybe go back to this one here. This is from the Mass Mapper program, where the wetlands have been, the wetland layer has been turned on, and then depicting in the yellow dashed line, the 50-foot buffer zone, and then the purple dashed line is the 100-foot buffer zone line from that coastal bank as depicted on MassGIS. As we had noted in the application materials, the coastal bank had actually been delineated previously, but it was back in 2014, which is what's shown on this plan. The heavy dark line over to the right is the coastal bank that was delineated back then. And then the 50-foot and 100-foot buffer zones have been projected from there. And you can see, so that approximately half of the house is located within that outer 50-foot buffer zone, where the left side, that's shown in red, obviously, and then the left side is the portion of the house that's actually outside of the buffer zone, and everything to the further to the left on the property is also without or outside of the buffer zone. There are we did include some architectural drawings, and I don't know if we want to get into too much detail on that, but again, the intent is to simply demolish the existing structure and reconstruct on the existing footprint of the existing house. So no increase in square footage to the proposed replacement house. I don't know if Robert, you wanted to touch on anything more specifically related to the house construction?
Yeah, the house that we've designed is very much in keeping with what was there, just maybe slightly larger in volume, but no additional, really very little additional square footage. And it's sitting on the existing footprint and very much in the character of the existing house and other houses in the area. And I don't know.
So, yeah, if that's, I know there's going to be some questions from the various commissioners. If there's nothing else that you guys want to add, we can go through them and see what Charlotte has for us, and then maybe after we do this, then we can discuss the cutting that took place and see how they all tie together and what the commission's preference is as to how to move forward. Unless there's anything else that you think we should know for the RDA.
I don't believe there's really anything other, other than this, what we've already mentioned. Obviously, what we're seeking was a negative determination related to the proposed house construction out here. But we're certainly happy to answer any other questions you may have related to the filing, and then we can possibly shift.
Before I turn it over to the commissioners, let me ask, can you discuss a little bit of what's going to happen with the foundation? What the plan is?
So the idea is to have an entirely new foundation, which is really why we're in front of you guys today, because I think if we kept the same foundation, we wouldn't be disturbing any of that area. The owners would like to have a habitable space in the basement. Currently, it's about 7 feet from the slab to the underside of the joist. We'd like to make that 8 feet if possible, and build a new foundation so that when we build the new house, we know that we're building it on a sure footing. So the actual disturbance would really be the overdigging in order to put in the new foundation. That's really the issue.
Okay. With that, Charlotte, let's start with you, and then I'll ask the commissioners, and then maybe come back to you at the end again. Charlotte, is there anything else that you think we should be considering at the outset?
Just a couple of quick things. Would you be able, David, you have your screen shared, right? Do you have the page with the erosion control, plan set out? And then I'm sorry, I'm forgetting your responses, but since the existing structure is within the setback, does this need to go to planning board for review, either for the garage and or the house?
The garage, no, we're going to move the garage within the setback. The
Okay.
house itself, there's this very, very minor increase in volume that's going to be happening outside of the setback, no increase in area. And so we've reviewed that with the building inspector, and it's to be determined if there's any sort of zoning requirement necessary, but it seems like we may need to go through zoning review because of the additional volume.
Okay. And then with the with the garage, I think we talked about this beforehand with Robert, but the garage will not be greater than 500 square feet, correct?
No, that's correct. Yes,
okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's outside the buffer, so I just wanted to clarify.
Right.
But yeah, I think the
Yes.
erosion control, yeah, you can see that in red there. And you're not going into the 50, and you're not increasing the square footage of the existing footprint in any way.
Correct.
Yep, that was mostly it. So I think if, obviously if zoning has any issues with it, it would relate to the volume, rather
Right.
than the actual footprint. And if they did
Right.
want you to move it, obviously you'd have to come back to the commission to figure that out, so.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, if there's anything different from what we're reviewing tonight, you'd obviously come back.
Right.
With that, thanks, Charlotte. Commissioner Bell, do you have any questions, comments, thoughts?
Yeah, a couple of questions. First of all, it looks like the wetlands delineation or the coastal bank delineation was done on another property. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And it was done in 2014. Is that also correct?
Correct.
So it's 11 years, it's 9 years out of date.
Yep.
They're only good for 2 years. I wouldn't be too concerned about it, except for when I look at the top of Coastal Bank and I look at the line for the 50 and 100-foot buffer, they don't make a lot of sense to me. Obviously, the distance from the western boundary there of the 50-foot buffer is closer to the coastal bank than if you move north, it gets farther and farther away. So it's I'm wondering, where is this 50-foot buffer actually? You see that there's a pinch there, right? Just before the yeah,
Right here.
that's right.
Right. Robert, do you know how this plan was
I think
submitted?
I believe the owners at one point had thought about doing a different layout where they weren't working on the same footprint. We were not the architects for that project, and so they had this all surveyed and they went through the process and ended up deciding not to go through with the proposal. And we were working off that survey from that previous submission.
So what is the actual distance from where your hand is there, your cursor is, to the 50-foot buffer? Is it 50 feet? Do you have a scale there?
So if you were to judge from here to here as being 50 feet, that does look like that's less than 50 there.
Yeah.
Which there is some discrepancy if I pull that other plan back from MassGIS, you can see.
Yeah, you really can't use MassGIS. It is those are very approximate lines that they do, and they caution it's not for regulatory purposes.
Mhm.
So it's not a valid data set for you
Mhm.
in this instance. It's just a general notion of where the wetlands are, to say the least.
Mhm.
So
And Robert, is there a retaining wall or a kind of a seawall along this edge of the property along here too?
I'm not sure. Actually, I'm not sure if there is or not.
So, really the substance of this is how much disturbance there's going to be surrounding the, that's associated with the construction, particularly of the basement. I presume there's going to be some excavation taking place and then concrete forms and trucks coming and going. And so I'd like to see your construction plan so that we have some notion of where you're, do you have a limit of work on here somewhere? I don't see it on this drawing. Do you have something showing the limit of work and where you're planning to put your silt socks and all that?
Yeah.
So really our limit of work is that red line there, yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
Mhm.
That's our compost filter sock erosion control barrier that we were showing there, which would act as the limit of work. Yes.
Okay. And that is within the 100-foot buffer,
Correct.
and it's generous, which I'm sure it needs to be. You've got to demolish a house and remove the debris and then get in there with, so and a construction entrance with the washdown. You have that here somewhere?
Well, we would use the existing driveway as our construction entrance, which is outside of the buffer, which would be off of Jerusalem Road.
Okay. I'm not sure that outside the buffer really matters to us.
Okay.
I'm sure that we have that if we specified construction entrances and the details of that for properties that are partially in the buffer before and their construction entrances may or may not have been inside that buffer, but it's something that we're concerned about. Do you have a plan for this? Other than
we don't have a plan. We were assuming that we'd come in off the existing driveway and we would work toward that line of the control line that we showed with that red line around the perimeter. Yes.
Okay, so that's a very generous limit of work in the 100.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to see it reduced. Did you have a stockpile area for stockpiling material, soil, topsoil, spoils from excavation, et cetera?
I think all of the stockpiling and all of the sort of the debris would be done outside of that buffer zone, so toward the garage side, toward Jerusalem Road.
So perhaps you don't need quite as much
Mhm.
limit of work as you depicted.
Yeah, the only reason we were showing that was because, as you mentioned before, there is going to be trucks and excavators, and we wanted to be realistic about what it would take to actually demolish and excavate for the new foundation.
Yeah, again, that's a generous limit of work. And of course, that wouldn't matter if it weren't in the 100-foot buffer, but it does matter. And so I'd like to see an alternative plan where you've minimized that to the absolute maximum extent practical.
Mhm. Mhm. We can do that.
Maybe if I zoom in a little bit closer too, you can see there are some dimensions on here which can help to you know, approximate how generous that is. That you can see the corner of the house to the property line is 22.5 feet. So the distance between the house and where we're showing that erosion control barrier is maybe only 15 feet or so.
Yeah.
And it even gets less back here, and certainly less around the backside here. So I
Yeah,
think
that's particularly what I'm looking at is the backside here. I recognize that the it is fairly narrow. It's wide enough to probably get your vehicles in and out. But I mean, if you're demolishing the house, you can remove most of that stuff out from outside the buffer itself, it looks like. Particularly since you're using the driveway as your access.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe David, we could run a line more vertically up and down the page from kind of right from there, kind of
From there.
straight down. Yeah.
Mhm.
And reduce that area in the buffer zone.
Yeah, again, reduce it to the maximum extent you possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a vertical line isn't sufficient.
Okay.
What is within, wait, that's the setback line. It looks like there's something indicating maybe stairs or something there.
Yeah, currently there's a walkout from the basement, the existing basement that's there now. Yes.
Okay. So that's previously disturbed, but where your cursor is, it's, what exists between your cursor and to the east there, I presume, at least plan east. Yeah, what's in there now?
I think it's primarily lawn.
Right.
Okay. All right, again, those are my concerns, is the limit of work here.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I don't know, I mean, ordinarily we don't accept wetlands delineations that are out of date. In this case, you know, you are working within the footprint, so I'm not sure it's as important as projects where there's new activity going on. But and again, that's not even that top of bank is on somebody else's property. I mean, it doesn't look like anybody's done anything on your existing property, although there's not much of it, it looks like, left to do. I mean, it's a very narrow finger that reaches down to Little Harbor, I guess.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure there's much to be gained there. I would like to see at least with the existing one, an accurate depiction of the 50-foot buffer on your plans when you come back.
Great. Tom, was there? I think those are valid. I'm gonna touch on those when we get to the end here. But if there's nothing else from you, Commissioner Bell, Commissioner Berrigan, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I don't.
Okay. Commissioner McIntyre.
I think Tom really And everything I would have covered. I think,
And
yeah.
we're gonna have another round of this too with discussing the
We're gonna
cutting of
discuss
property.
landscaping, I think, in a few minutes, so I'll hold on that.
Yeah.
But that would be the remaining question about what, I don't see much on dirt disturbance to what there is for existing trees and vegetation, so we can kind of just talk about the design and then address that.
Commissioner Magnell?
Only question I have is the two exterior elements, the porch and the deck, are those new? Or are those replacement?
Those are existing currently.
Okay, and so they would just be renovated.
They would be renovated to be a screen porch and a deck, yes. Mhm.
Great.
Other than that, I think Tom has made most of the questions.
And
I just have go
oh.
ahead, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna note that before we move on to any landscaping things, there are just a few questions in the audience, but I know we wanted to go through commissioner comments first.
Sure. Yeah, I had, if you go to page 16 of the RDA submission, I think this touches on Tom's point as far as the wetlands delineation. You could see how the 100-foot there is barely shaving off a teeny corner of the house. And then you go to, what was it? Was it the GIS tool? It's really like halfway through the house. So even on what was submitted, the 50 and the 100 are not consistent. And I think that, sort of highlights, if you go down, I think, what is it, page 17, maybe? You can see, oh, no, I'm sorry. Keep going. Yeah, there you go. Page 19, I think it is. You can see now we're about 50% of the structure is within the 100. So that sort of highlights the concern that we have without the accurate delineation. So
Mhm.
I'm hoping that can be addressed if the opportunity arises. And before we get to the next section, that's really the only comment that I had. Tom basically brought up everything that I thought was valuable as well. Charlotte, do you want to see what's going on in the audience?
Yeah, do we want it's the same person, Mr. Goldberg, we can read your questions, but as we do that, can you please type your address in? We need a name and address for the record. But I guess, Mr. Chair, do you want me to just start with the first question?
Yeah, and I could, yeah, sure, go ahead.
Okay, so will the seriously deteriorated garage also be demolished and rebuilt? And then the second question is, will there be blasting to rebuild the foundation, I assume, for the garage and or the house? So those are the first two questions. And he's from 15 Nicholas Road.
Mhm. So the existing garage will be demolished and rebuilt within the setback. And in terms of blasting, as far as we know, would be no need for blasting. It would just be excavating an additional 1 foot below what the existing slab is. But obviously, if there was ledge, we'd have to figure out how to remove that or work around it. But at the moment, we don't believe there'd be any blasting.
Okay, and that's for the foundation for the garage and the house?
Oh, yes, correct. The foundation for the garage, no blasting for sure. Yeah.
Okay. And then the third question was, are they planning a foundation or full basement under the porch and deck?
No, the porch and deck would just have the sonotube foundations
Okay.
and very minimal.
Okay.
So
And
the
that's-
existing
that's,
pours, sorry, go ahead, Charlotte.
Oh, no, it's okay. That's pretty much what's kind of there because it's on like wooden piers and stuff, and there's already a screened porch and an open face deck. So you're just kind of replacing the footings, but you're not doing like a solid poured foundation.
Correct. That's correct. Yes. Mhm.
Okay.
Great. Okay, so would you like to discuss a little bit, David or Moscow Lynn, about what happened at the site as far as the cutting that wasn't necessarily in the submission? I didn't see anything in the RDA regarding tree removal or anything else, but it seems like there was definitely some vegetation taken out. I saw some site pictures. I don't have the privilege of having them from before, although we do have Nearmap. But I saw some site pictures. It looks like the site was pretty well cleared. And that wasn't part of the RDA. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about what happened there?
So maybe, I don't know if Charlotte are the owners on, and they may want to speak for themselves. I can speak for them
Yeah,
if they.
I can, Pam and, I don't know if you guys can hear us, but if you want to unmute yourself. Oh, there we go. Might be a computer thing. I think I see David.
Charlotte, can you bring up your map?
Sure. Pam, David, can you guys hear us? You're both muted.
While we're waiting for him, let's take a look at, near map from,
There we go.
Can you hear us now?
Hi, yes, we can.
Hi, folks.
And if it's okay, David, I will, can I switch sharing options? I can pull up near map for a visual.
Sure, yep.
Thank you. Let's see. Can you guys all see this? This is the parcel. And I just marked well, at the time, I think I was notified previously of a tree that was hazardous. So I think David and Pam have more information about that. And these are the trees that I saw on near map on the 100, but we did see a little bit more on site. So I guess if you guys wanted to walk us through kind of what happened and, go from there.
Well, I drove up to the site, and 3 trees actually had been taken down that I'd asked to be saved. So I was already pretty rattled, and was very concerned about which trees were going to be taken down. There were trees that were dead and rotting. We didn't know whether they were on our land or the Cohasset land. They were on the street. So I told everybody to stop, went to the town hall and said, I'm terrified of cutting any trees down that I shouldn't. And the building inspector came out, which was very nice. People, by the way, in the town hall, certainly Charlotte, have been trying to educate us and guide us and inform us about what to do and what not to do. Clearly, I didn't take the lesson well enough, but the building inspector confirmed that it more than the 2 trees that we thought were rotting, and that were in danger of limbs coming down. And he gave them permission. He photographed the trees. He took some videos. They were rotting from the inside. And he didn't talk to me, he talked to the people who were doing the work so that they would be clear in what he wanted done, and some pruning of some other trees. So that seemed okay. And I should have really walked more of the site with him. So I take responsibility for anything that happened that day. It was a long day. And the problem, I think, was a half a bush that we took down. It was a bush, and I'm not even sure it didn't need to come down. It wasn't bothering anybody's sight. It wasn't doing anything but being a bush between the Lacey's and us. So they took half of that bush down. And it wasn't supposed to come down. There was no reason for it to come down. I apologize. This isn't a situation where people cut trees down and say, oops, I'm sorry. I had no intention of doing anything I shouldn't have done. It was a mistake. I apologize. I'm not sure what to do about it except put the bushes, it's a bush, to put the bush back. Half of the bush is there. If Mr. Lacey was around, he would have made sure I did not make that mistake. We had a very good relationship, and he was a steward of the land for sure. So that was what happened on the site. I'm glad I asked about the trees on the street, but I should have had him go through with me. He would have, he was very helpful. And sort of was sure that we were doing what we should do. I can't say more than that, except I feel like I let Charlotte down. She spent a lot of time with us trying to explain what we could do. And we, you know, we're building a small house. I think it's the smallest one in Cohasset. We felt as though we were trying to be respectful, even with the design, that it would fit in, that it would be okay. And I feel badly about this. I really do. I want to be a good Cohasset resident again.
Thank you for that. And you know, I mean, nothing, I wouldn't feel too badly. I mean, nothing would be punitive or whatever, but we have our role too, right? We want to protect the habitat, you know, and make sure, you know, and protect erosion and everything else. And also make sure that, you know, we have a responsibility sort of to follow the rules and make sure everyone else does too. And so with that, you know, I'd like to, you know, hear what Charlotte has to say and hear what the other commissioners have to say for options, and we can talk about the best way to proceed. I mean, and so why don't we go that way? And I appreciate that statement. And, you know, I mean, stuff happens, but you know, we'll work through it and see what the next step is here. Is Charlotte, how do you think we should proceed, or any thoughts you have? I know you're going to defer to us on how to proceed.
Yeah. So, I mean, you guys saw the plans that at least the stuff in the front of the house. So this tree, actually right where the number 183 is, that one was also taken down. And at least from the plans that we have, it looks like that's outside of the buffer zone. And at least the tree that John had called me about, it was on the right-hand side here. I didn't see photos of it, what it looked like before, but John did assure me that when he was on the site, you know, that tree is the one that's like really close to the house. He said that one was really hazardous and he was going to authorize it to come out. And I said, okay, like, just, you know, we need to note that for the files. And then on this property border here, I think it's behind the garage. It did look like there was some pruning going on, and you know, that was outside of the buffer zone. But unfortunately, I don't think the building inspector saw the back of what was taken out. So, you know, the stuff around the foundation of the home, you know, I assume it was all overgrown, like shrub stuff. It's hard to tell from the cut stumps, but I assume it was woody shrub stuff around the home that was taken out. And then this area here, and then this area here, it looked like some sort of hedge that was cut down. And then this area here, it's hard to tell from near map. I don't know if they're small trees or if they're just giant woody shrubs, but I did see what looked like two tree stumps in this area here, and shrub stumps. So I can show pictures so you guys can kind of see it. And I'm sure you said you walked the site, so you saw what was there. So I don't know if you guys have pictures of what it looked like beforehand, because it's kind of hard to tell on near map. But so yeah, I mean, there definitely looked like there was more taken out than what I was informed of, unfortunately. And it seems like everyone was caught off guard here. So I think, you know, it's up to the commission, I guess, in terms of what you'd want to see to remedy the situation here. I mean, we have a bunch of options. I tried to type up some suggestions on the determination and then any enforcement. You can put it all in one submission. You can do it separately. You can, you know, it kind of depends on what the commission wants to do. And it seems like the applicants are willing to, you know, work with us here. So, you know, there's definitely plenty of options of what we can do.
Charlotte, do you think you could go back a couple clicks on the near map? There might be one when it's like, you know, I think the late summer one, you know, we might be able to see. Yeah, that might be, you know, it just shows, the growth. It shows the growth a little bit better though. And then if you take a look at the site visits, you know, there's definitely, there's just no indication that any trees were going to come down. And of course, you know, let me ask this of the applicant. Did you get any letter or any arborist opinion about any of the trees that, you know, presented a hazard, or we were just sort of relying, and I'm not saying we shouldn't rely on the building inspector, but I don't suppose you have any arborist opinion about any of the stuff that came out?
That came out?
Well, it looks like at least a couple trees were cut down. I think you said 3, but some of them may not be within the buffer. But did you get an opinion from an arborist that a tree was dead and posed a risk?
Well, the tree the tree between the Lacey's and us was definitely dead.
This one, the one right here.
No, we did not get an arborist to talk about what was there. And I think we relied a little bit on the building commissioner, but I think he was just trying to be helpful. So I don't want to put him in any awkward position within that. The only other thing that maybe there is that there were no trees that came down within the 50-foot buffer. As far as I could see, what you're looking at is stumps from bushes. And our intent was, let's get rid of, with apologies for maybe going overboard, let's get rid of some of the stuff that didn't seem to be there or was doing a good job. And we had planned on replanting. So, and we were going to work with the town and the Conservation Commission. And as a matter of fact, I think we even had the name of somebody given to us by the tree people as to who could help us to make sure that we did the proper things in replanting not only trees in front outside of the 100-foot buffer, but anything in back that needed to be planted within the 50 to 100-foot thing. And we plan on working with them to try to do that and make sure that we keep the land as neutral as possible.
Okay, thank you for that. With that, let's see what the other commissioners have to if they have any questions or thoughts about this. I certainly have an opinion as to how we should proceed, but I'm just one. Commissioner Bell, what do you think? You're the
yeah, as long as they're going to replant, re-landscape this, and work with plants off of our Conservation Commission list of native plants, that I don't see a problem here.
Great. Commissioner Berrigan, do you have any other thoughts?
No, I agree with Tom. As long as these trees are replaced with the native ones that we want, that's okay. That's all you can do, really, and that would be good.
Commissioner Magnell?
I see no reason to penalize these folks for bushes and things that are probably going to have to be removed anyway in order to do the construction. It's obvious that for the most part, the ones that are around the house are the ones that are going to have to go. So as long as they do the replanting, which would probably be an advantage to replant them with more native species than are already there. Who knows what was there, actually. So.
Commissioner McIntyre?
Yeah, I concur. I normally would have asked for a landscaping plan and would have probably anticipated how some of the trees in that proximity to the house would have had to have been removed, and for access, at least for demolition, they probably wouldn't have survived. So they didn't follow the process, but I don't think it was any fault on them. And I think as long as we follow through with a replacement plan that is consistent with what we've done, on other projects, then yeah, good.
Okay, so hearing from the commissioners, it sounds like, essentially we have two fundamental options, right? So we can issue a positive required NOI, which part of me, if we weren't pulling out the existing foundation and completely repouring, and we didn't have issues with setback delineation, and we could be really confident that work would be really limited to the exact existing footprint, I wouldn't even really think that a positive would be consideration. But for me, I don't want to create more work, but putting aside for a second the issue of the tree replanting, which I think is also relevant, for me, I'm just a little worried about the unknown here. So maybe if we have a follow-up hearing for the RDA, and then if we get the proper delineation and get basically touch on Commissioner Bell's observations about the limit of work and just really give us the confidence that, you know, that we're not going to have a further disturbance within the 100 other than what's already there, which I just don't see exactly how that's going to happen, then perhaps a negative would be appropriate. But then on top of that, you know, no matter what we do, I would definitely like to see a mitigation plan. I've heard a couple of things, right? I've heard, I think one of the applicants said that 3 trees came out. It looks like, you know, there's definitely some stumps and some fresh cutting, whether they're bushes or trees, but none of the vegetative removal was illustrated on the RDA application itself. And so, you know, I guess no matter what, I think a mitigation plan would certainly, you know, make the rest of the commissioners happy, you know, choosing, you know, vegetation off our list that would be healthy there, and it's really showing us where they're going to go. So that I think that with that, you know, I guess I'd like to hear what the commissioners have to think, what they think about whether we want to require an NOI here, or, you know, given the fact that it's, you know, really in the existing footprint of the foundation, despite the fact that it's all coming out and going back in, and we're going to have to dig further around whether a negative would be suitable. And, you know, what are our thoughts on that? And, you know, Commissioner Bell, do you have any further thoughts on that, how we should handle that?
Yeah, I think a negative is appropriate here, assuming that they can at least come back and confirm that they can reduce the limit of work a bit. I don't think, just looking at the wetlands delineation, there's really not much they can do about that, because they only have about a 8 or 10 foot wide easement. It's not an easement, I guess, it's part of their property down to the water before they're onto their neighbor to the south, who may or may not give permission for a delineation. So I don't think that that's necessary. So my concern is, after looking at the stumps that Charlotte's just shown us a dozen times, it looks like there are only a couple there that were of any substance. And I think that if they're going to landscape with native plants, I'm happy with that. If they can reduce the limit of work, that would be fine with me. So I think we can probably do this with a negative determination with just a few conditions.
Yeah, my one question, I was trying to, it's hard to tell on site. From near map, it doesn't look like they're that big because it's a small area, but this was what they look like tree stumps, but on near map, they look like small overgrown shrub things. I mean, that's definitely a shrub, but these look like, you know, tree stumps. So I just didn't know if you guys had like photos, or if you can confirm what those were. Because like I said, near map versus what I see on site look like 2 different things.
They have a kind of a curious yellow color. I bet that those could be identified just from the stumps, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
Was it
They look sort of like trees. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
was it the contractor that's gonna do the work that was cut out? I'm sorry if I missed that, but was it just was it a subcontractor to the builder, or was it the builder themselves, or who actually did this cutting?
I can answer that. It's it was a subcontractor to the builder who worked on the land.
And that will be building that will be doing the project for you?
And the builder will be doing the project for us.
So this wasn't like a specific like tree company or anything, or?
Well, there was a tree company that did this, but the tree company that did it was a subcontractor of our builder who's going to be building the house. And we can get the name of the tree company if you want it. They were very interested in what we were doing, and tried to do the least possible and get within whatever needed to be done in order to redo the foundation and build a new house.
Who's the builder? Who's your builder?
The builder is Richard Andrews.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So my only concern about a negative is that, you know, with this being, you know, I don't know if Charlotte is familiar with that contractor, but if it's a situation where, you know, we are so close to the buffer, we're downhill. If this is going to be a project that, you know, Charlotte's gonna have to keep an eye on anyways. Would it be more, you know, just more work for her that's not being documented? I just wouldn't want to have to do this again. If we have it on track with the normal procedures and NOI, then it's just going to be standard and we follow through with everything. I would say that, you know, it is close to the buffer. We would want an updated delineation, understanding that, you know, this was you know, a miscommunication potentially with the building inspector, and but it's just it's tough for me to kind of err on the side of a negative, given the fact that we haven't approved anything and they've already, you know, started cutting stuff. So I don't know, Charlotte, how you feel about that. I would like input for you, like if this is something that you would, you know, be having to feel like you would be checking on. And
I think either way with permitting, as long as the right set of conditions are put in place, like that's good enough for me. But you know, I'm torn between positive and negative too, obviously, given the fact of, you know, what just happened. So I mean, that's not my decision, that's yours. But I think as long as whatever decision you decide to issue, as long as we have a set of conditions that, you know, is feasible for me, works for everybody, you know, in terms of a mitigation plan, when we should receive that, how many trees and shrubs that we need to have on the plan. All of that is really what I need. And then the rest of it, I'll defer to you guys.
Thanks, Chris and Charlotte. Commissioner Berrigan, do you have any thoughts on you know, how you might see proceeding?
I would agree with Chris. I think it's good to have a plan, something definite, and that we can all follow. So to have a mitigation plan.
How about you, Commissioner Magnell?
I think that that we probably should issue the negative determination, assuming that when they submit the NOI, that includes all the usual things that are on there, the planting plan and the like, so that all that stuff will be taken care of in the next step.
So you're inclined to require an NOI for this project?
I am, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I mean, that's my thought too. And you know, although I am concerned with the cutting, I feel like that can be resolved, whether it's a negative or a positive, with a clear mitigation plan. And so that my bigger issue is, you know, like Commissioner McIntyre said, you know, it's sort of downhill where and the limit of work is, you know, a little unclear. And I realize you were trying to be generous and say, look, this is the outside where, you know, we might go all this far. And that's really giving us, you know, a sense of comfort that you were trying to, you know, really say, look, we might actually go this far, and letting us know that. But my concern is, you know, just everything that can happen with pulling out, you know, the existing foundation, digging deeper than the existing foundation, and then pouring. You know, I think I'd like to see an NOI also. But you know, it sounds like that might be the consensus. I don't know. Did any other commissioners have any other thoughts on how before maybe we entertain a motion on, because we're well over 15 minutes obviously here. Before we entertain a motion, is there anybody else who has any thoughts as to a negative or a positive? Help us work through this, Commissioner Bell.
Yeah, I just say that hearing that the contractor had been somewhat irresponsible, it makes me concerned about, again, violating that limit of work, even though it's on the plan. So I'll change my mind on this, that I'll agree with a positive.
Okay.
And
so
negative, sorry.
I'll just make one more note that, I mean, we're asking for an updated delineation, which is pretty much the only thing missing from this existing plan, and plus the mitigation and the landscaping. So it's like they've already done a lot of the work.
There's not a lot of more work. Yeah. Well, no, but Tom, you said a negative. You mean like require an NOI, like a positive?
Yeah, require an NOI. Yeah. I think we really obviously, we and the applicant need to keep a close eye on this contractor if he's doing things for his convenience and not paying close attention to working here in Cohasset in the buffer zones, and that should have just he should have realized that this could cause problems.
So with that, I mean, so if Charlotte helped us out a lot here, and if we're going to issue a positive, it looks like a 4 and to work in the buffer zone that will alter the resource area subject to state law, the Wetlands Protection Act, and then a 5 subject to our bylaw would be the motion on the positive, and then we can consider some conditions, particularly a mitigation plan. And to the applicant, I think Commissioner McIntyre said it well. You almost have all the work done here. This is really just a difference in process that we're talking about, as opposed to really requiring a lot. This is not punitive. It's just so that we can really keep track of this project as it goes forward, given that you're so close, really, to the resource area. So that would be my thought too. I'm happy to make the motion, but if anyone else would like to, I'm certainly willing to listen and see if we get a second on it. Oh yes, Mr. Lapointe.
Yeah, sorry, can I just mention one thing though, that
Yeah, of course.
I mean, I would assume that as part of the or one of the conditions that you might attach to even a negative determination would be to have the erosion control barrier installed and then have presumably Charlotte inspect it prior to any of the actual construction activities. So once that's in place and once Charlotte was able to take a look to make sure that it's consistent with what was shown on the plan, granted a revised layout of that erosion control barrier, the architect and his team is going to be, I'm presuming on site on a regular basis, and will be keeping an eye on that contractor to make sure that they're not going beyond that limit of work in that erosion control barrier.
I would just say we might consider a construction fence.
Sure.
Or
Yeah,
you might consider a construction fence, because if he does it and you find it after the fact, it defeats the whole purpose.
Yeah.
Commissioner Magnell, did you have something that you were about to say as well? Sorry.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
So I guess that brings up another option. It seemed like for a moment there, the consensus of the commission was really to issue a positive and to wait for an NOI. If Mr. Lapointe, you would like to continue this and sort of amend your RDA with a mitigation plan and amending the limit of work and showing us amended delineation and really specifying how we're going to make sure a bunch of construction debris and concrete and whatnot isn't going to affect the resource area. I mean, I'm okay either way, right? It's like Chris said, you're almost there on either one. So if you prefer that, I'm okay with that too. I'm just one commissioner. What are your thoughts on that? Is that your preference? It sounded like.
Well, I think it really is up to the applicant, but in terms of the updated delineation as well, as was mentioned by one of the commissioners, that coastal bank is primarily on the abutter's property, and I'm sure we could ask for permission to go on their property to delineate that, but we may not be granted that permission as well. So just something.
I'm less concerned with the updated delineation because I don't really think it's going to change what you're proposing here, whether it's 5 or 10 feet one way or the other. Either way, you're in the 100 and you're not in the 50. And so, I'm not that preoccupied with that, but I am concerned that, there was definitely some cutting here. And I think we're sort of understating the cutting that happened, especially post the meeting with Charlotte. I've known Charlotte for a couple of years now, and I don't imagine you could sit with her for 5 minutes without her telling you don't cut anything until you get permission from the commission. Right. And so, that's my understanding is that you met with her. That's what it sounds like what the applicant explained. So, if I'm willing to, continue this and you guys show us how we're not going to, adversely affect the resource area and still issue a negative, or it sounds like the consensus of the commission, if you wanted us to vote tonight, would be to issue a positive and you come back with an NOI, which I think it's half dozen, whatever, six, you know, whatever the saying is, either way on the work. So, what do you think, to the applicant, Mr. Lapointe, to your team? Would you like a continuance, or would you like us to vote and give you a positive?
Yeah, ultimately, I think it's up to the applicant, but I think our recommendation would be to continue it to be able to provide that supplemental information.
And does any commissioner want to interrupt me and tell me that that's not not an option before we hear further from the applicant?
Yeah.
Obviously, if they want to do it,
an
have a
option, but-
continuation, it's not up to us. That's a decision that they make, we don't make that decision.
You know, I think a continuation would be preferable, but not if it felt like we were going to have a continuation and then do the NOI after the continuation. So I think that's really the issue. We're wanting to get a feel from the commission if, you know, a continuance that actually involves a mitigation plan, a reduction of the limit of work, and the information that you've asked for feels like a legitimate path forward, then I think that would be our preference. Yes.
I'm just one commissioner, but for me, it would be a legitimate path forward. But I just say, I mean, without using technical terms, I would like to know that this, you know, tearing out the existing foundation and repouring it, you're going to show me how that's not going to, you know, affect the resource area beyond the limit of work area that's defined and, you know, and limited as much as possible. And if I'm convinced of that, the rest for me is, you know, more process than anything else. So, and I think we're all clear. I think one thing we might want to discuss, if you want to come back with a hope of getting, you know, a negative next time, maybe we should talk about, you know, just directly how many trees were taken out within the buffer zone and how many bushes and what the number is of replacing them. So your mitigation plan is something that, you know, we don't hop on next time and say, well, you took out 3 trees and you're only proposing 2 new ones. I mean, if you want to have a, you know, a legit, you know, supplemental submission, it seems like at least 2 were taken out. And, you know, that would usually mean that we asked for 4, you know, but you did also have the building inspector come through and say at least one of them looks hazardous, you know, that the one of maybe is the southern side of the house. Do any commissioners have any thoughts as to, you know, and I'm gonna ask you, Commissioner McIntyre, because you're usually pretty direct about this. Do you have any thoughts as to what you'd like to see in the mitigation plan based on the images and what we know was taken out?
Yeah, I think in the 50, it's a 2-to-1 replacement. Our standard for the 100 is 1-to-1. So, I think if they do, you know, and I'm not saying one way or the other at this point, but if they do, you know, an accounting and kind of confirm it with Charlotte offline, we don't have to do it right now, obviously. They can work from there to do the mitigation plan. That said, again, it's kind of you know, we're working with a contractor now that's already done one thing, so they could, it's a bit of a roll of the dice. I mean, I right now I still kind of feel that a positive is the way forward if they have schedule on their side and I'm not saying 2 weeks from now I'm going to be still pushing for, yeah, I'll give it an open mind and be open to a negative after for whatever they present new. But I'm just, if schedule is an issue, then that's up to them. Because
I wouldn't want us to promise you that whatever you give us next time is going to result in a negative.
Of course, yeah, of course, that makes sense. Yeah.
So, are you requesting a continuance? And if so, Charlotte, do you want to tell us a date?
Well, I guess Robert and David and Pam, would you want a continuance? Just know that
Pamela and David, do you agree that a continuance is the path forward?
I think our concern only is similar to yours. We'd be glad to go with a continuance, but we don't want to have a continuance. And certainly the Conservation Board can't guarantee anything,
right?
But we don't want to go ahead with a continuance and then come back and they say, well, now we want an NOI. So I think that's our only concern. We'd like to go with the continuance, but if there's going to be too much to do, that they really want an NOI, and our consultant has done a lot of the work, so that there isn't a lot of additional work for the NOI, then maybe we ought to go for the NOI. I mean, let's do this thing that's going to make the most sense to everybody, us, the architect, and the conservation commissioner. So I think that's where we stand. Yeah, the continuance would be better, but if they feel that the NOI is going to be the way to go forward and we can expedite that, let's go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I mean,
what I was going to recommend, actually. Oh, sorry, Mr. Chair. I was going to say that I think it sounds like, just based on the back and forth, and I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, we're over an hour on this, I know, but we had.
That's why I was just trying to move it forward.
I mean, since the commission's kind of going back and forth based on the conversations we've had tonight, I mean, as you know, we can't guarantee that a negative will be the result. And unfortunately, we have a little bit of time, due to the holidays. We canceled our last meeting of the year on the 19th. So the next meeting would not be until January 9th. So I think, to wait, about a month, and then, you may or may not get a negative or positive determination on the 9th, that, it might just be, I think, given the commission's concerns with the potential impact in the buffer zone, a positive. It seems like a few commissioners said that. So that might be the quickest path forward for the applicants, with the mitigation plan, with the NOI, resubmitting the plans with that additional information, and just coming back on the 9th with a full plan where the commission's concerns are all addressed, rather than negotiating if this is going to have an impact or not. If you just maybe assume that it might, and then you come up with the plan, then you've eliminated that question altogether. But that's up to obviously everybody here. So I think it just, path forward to address the commission's concerns with the impact in the buffer zone and the resource.
I think Charlotte said it well. It sounds like you guys want some certainty as to what's going to happen next, and make sure to keep this project moving forward. I think we just vote. We vote tonight, give you a positive. You come back with an NOI with the complete plans, and then we just get the project marching along. That makes the most sense to me after hearing everybody's thoughts. With that, and it has been over an hour. Unless anybody has anything else, does anybody? I'd entertain a motion on a positive for and a positive. Oh, sorry, Charlotte.
Yeah, no, sorry, Mr. Chair. It was just a quick comment. The last comment from the public. Do you want me to read that?
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed it.
No, it's fine. It's fine. We kind of go back and forth with commission and the public. So it was the same, Mr. Goldberg from 15 Nichols Road. It should be noted that a few years ago, with the cooperation of the applicants, 185 Jerusalem took down 12 trees on our property without our consent.
Okay. Did I lose you?
Nope. That was, I didn't know who to direct that question to, Mr. Chair. I don't know if you want to, well, it's a comment, but
I don't think it's germane to
Yeah, I don't know if it changes anything for what we're doing now. So,
Okay.
So with that, does anybody want to make a motion to keep this project moving forward? We appreciate everybody's time tonight. We like to be diligent, and so would anybody like to make a motion with a positive 4 and 5 potentially? With that, I'd make a motion to issue a positive hold on one sec. Sorry. A positive determination on the request for determination of applicability number 2419, with a positive 4 and a positive 5, requesting an NOI.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Commissioner Bell?
Tom Bell, aye.
Commissioner Berrigan?
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Commissioner Magnell? Steve, you're muted.
I know. Steve Maidel, aye.
Commissioner McIntyre?
McIntyre, aye.
And Valerio Romano, aye. And with that, we'll close the public hearing on RDA 24-19. Thank you all for your time. I really think it's about the same. It's 6 of one, half dozen of the other, and this I think gives you some certainty. So I appreciate your willingness to work with us and clear up any confusion that happened here. We look forward to hearing from you on January 9th. I think Charlotte, maybe reach out to her with, dates and when she wants everything. So the commissioners and her have adequate chance to review and supply any comments so we can keep it moving forward.
Thank you,
Thank you
guys.
very much for your
Great.
time tonight.
Sorry, Charlotte.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll figure it out. Thank you, guys. I appreciate your time.
Thanks.
Okay, great. So yeah, thank you. Yes, that public hearing is closed. The next is, in accordance with MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetlands Bylaw and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw, we're holding a public hearing now, December 5th. It's starting at 7:40, but notice for 6:30 via remote participation on Zoom for stormwater permit 2432 to construct a proposed pool, hot tub, shed, and pervious patio and retaining walls at 33 Hemlock for James and Megan Curry. The public had the opportunity and still does to email cpechtel@cohassetma.gov. And should the public be listening to this somehow without knowing how to get on Zoom, the Zoom information is at cohassetma.org in the meetings hearing notices. So with that, one moment, please. I'm sorry. Charlotte, is there anyone from the applicant team available to promote?
Hi. Yep. Hi, Matt. Hi, Jeff. Can you guys introduce yourselves for the record, please?
Hey, Charlotte. Hey, everyone. Jeff Bassett with Morse Engineering.
Hey, Jeff.
I'm James Curry, although I go by my middle name, Matt, and I'm the resident and owner.
All right.
Yeah, so go ahead, guys. If you want to share a screen, Jeff, and let us know, what the plan is.
Sure. Let me share my plan, and we'll go dive right into it. Okay, so this property, it's part of the Cohasset Estate subdivision off of Beechwood, and Hemlock Way is at the bottom of the page. They have a paved driveway and a home. The property on the left is developed similarly with a single-family home, and the property to the right in the rear is actually owned by the HOA. So they have some open space along the side and the back of the property. This property is 14,000 square feet. It was built in 2014, and the property is fully developed with lawn and landscaping outside of the the home and the driveway. The backyard is relatively flat, with the exception of the back left corner where the grade begins to fall off. There's an access road. It's an emergency access road here that's paved as part of the HOA parcel. And the whole site runs off kind of in a northwesterly direction to a stormwater basin located off site. So the proposed work is going to be, they have a deck here which will remain. I'll zoom in on that a little bit more. So this semicircle patio will be removed and replaced with a new pervious patio, a swimming pool that's 18 by 36 with an 8 by 8 hot tub next to it. Because the grade falls off in this corner, there's going to be 2 retaining walls that don't exceed 3 feet in height to pick up the grade in that corner. And we're also proposing a shed over here. The patio will be pervious, but it also is going to have a trench drain running down the middle of it, and the runoff will go to a drywall system underground here. Access would be tight to come off of the driveway, so they're going to come off of the access road behind, and the homeowners do have permission from the HOA to do that. It's really a perfect level spot coming off of that paved road to right where the work is going to be done. No wetlands on the property or within 100 feet. We filed a stormwater permit only, and it's a slight increase in impervious. It's only 163 square feet of additional impervious, so that alone doesn't trigger a stormwater permit. But the limit of work being this, the back portion of the property is a little bit more than 5,000 square feet. That's why we filed the stormwater permit. We have an erosion barrier along the down gradient limit of work, right along the property line. That access will have a stabilized construction entrance. And this project, it has been designed in accordance with their stormwater bylaw. It's a pretty significant decrease in rates and volumes of runoff for all the storm events. And then I'll show you some photos. This is the house here. This is the backyard where the pool is going. Pool's going on this side of the backyard. You can see the grade falls off a little bit in the back corner. The fence goes right along the property line. You can see the stormwater basin out back, which all the runoff flows to. And here's another, just kind of one more view of the backyard. And that's the extent that I have to share. I'll pass it back to you.
Thanks, Jeff. Charlotte, let's start with you. With any thoughts or comments for the commission's consideration while we're talking about this?
Yeah, so this one, I did walk the site with Matt. We added a couple more things to the plan. I'm sorry, Jeff, I don't know if you mentioned it, but there is existing drainage. There's an outlet pipe that goes, as you guys can see underneath, into the large stormwater basin that is behind 3 homes. And so that may or may not need to get relocated, obviously, for construction, but the drainage will be kept separate from the house versus the pool with the trench drain into the infiltration. And I think, Jeff, you didn't do a test pit, but you did do a probe test in the area for the infiltration. You didn't find any ledge. And other than that, I did clarify there'll be no grading for the retaining wall because the backyard past the fence area obviously slopes down into that large basin. So there's going to be no grading changes for that. So it seems pretty straightforward, at least to me, but I'll defer to the commission for any comments, at least for any conditions. In this case, I think our standard template would be sufficient here. We do have conditions already put in place about best management practices for pool water and things like that, and required site inspections, especially for pool projects. And I don't think we received anything from the neighbors, didn't receive any comments from the other boards on this one.
Yeah, it looks like the planning board had no comments. Commissioner Bell, any thoughts?
No comments, no questions.
Commissioner Berrigan?
No questions. It seems pretty straightforward, as Charlotte said.
Commissioner Magnell?
No questions here.
And Commissioner McIntyre?
Pull this up. Sorry.
No, take your time. Thanks, Chris.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, for some reason I cannot pull up my Zoom screen. It's got too many screens open. I was just looking at the water resource district and looking if there's any specific drainage requirements for that, because it's just inside the lily pond, but I don't think there is. There's no shower. Is there a shower?
No shower proposed.
Yeah, no, nothing. No comments.
And I don't really have anything additional that I don't think is covered by our standard conditions, particularly with the BMPs for the pools. So I don't have anything additional either. I think this is a short, sweet, clean application. So thank you, Jeff, for your work. With that, if there's nothing else, I'd entertain a motion.
I move to issue a stormwater permit for, let me get my agenda here. I move to issue a stormwater permit for stormwater permit 2432, 33 Hemlock Way with our standard conditions.
Second.
Okay, let's roll call vote. Commissioner Bell?
Tom Bell, aye.
Commissioner Berrigan?
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Commissioner Magnell?
Steve Magnell, aye.
Commissioner McIntyre?
Chris McIntyre, aye.
And Valerio Romano, aye. With that, the public hearing for SWP 2432 is now closed. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Great, thanks everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Great. That made up for the long early one. Our next public hearing is in accordance with MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetlands Bylaw, and the Stormwater Bylaw We are holding a public hearing tonight, December 5th, 2024, noticed for 6:30, starting at 7:50, via remote participation on Zoom for NOI 24-34, to remove an existing screened-in porch and construct a proposed addition and covered entry within the 100-foot buffer zone at 34 Brewster Road for Lauren and Michael Haggerty. The public is and was invited to offer input by emailing cpectel@cohassetma.gov. And should you want to know the Zoom info, we also keep that at cohassetma.org in the meeting's hearing notices. This public hearing is now open. Charlotte, is there anyone from the applicant team to promote?
Yep, so we still have Jeff Morse Engineering representing the applicant, and hi Mike, and Mike Haggerty, the applicant. All right.
All right, I'll present this one again. All right, so this property is a little less than a half an acre. It's located on Brewster Road at the bottom of the page. It's developed with a paved driveway here, a one-story single-family home, and there's a wetland off-site, I guess partially on-site in the back right corner. We had the wetland flagged by South River Environmental in June of this year. And the additions include a new covered entry on the front of the house, which is 5 by 8. That'll be supported by sonotubes. There's also a new 4 by 6 covered entry on the side of the house, also supported by sonotubes. And on the back of the house, they currently have a screen porch and a wood deck. Those will both be removed and replaced with an addition that's 18 by 28 foot 9 inches. It's 1 story with a cathedral ceiling, and it works out to only be an increase in 390 square feet of impervious because a part of that is already roof area. So it does not trigger a stormwater permit. And the project has been designed in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, as well as the Cohasset conservation regulations. The 50-foot buffer is in red, so you can see all the work is outside of the 50-foot buffer. The addition is 78 feet away from the wetland at the nearest point. It's within an area that's currently developed immediately next to the house or within part of the house footprint, and it's relatively flat. Despite that, we are proposing a mulch sock that will connect from the house around and tie in on this side of the work. So with that, I don't see this having any adverse impact on the wetlands. I did go to the site and take a few photos of this property as well. There we go. This is the front of the house, so a 5 by 8 cover entry on the front. Yeah, there'll be a 4 by 6 entry on the side. And then this is the deck and the porch that will be removed and replaced. And this is a view looking towards the wetlands beyond in the wooded area. So you can see this area is relatively flat. That ledge outcrop will work as a natural barrier, but we still have a mulch sock in front of it and then connecting around. And I will pass it back to you.
Thanks, Jeff. I did see that there was no planning board comments, but there was a Board of Health comment. And it's not necessarily. Have you been to the other boards? Did you confirm with the Board of Health? And is there an addition of an additional bedroom or living space, given the fact that it's Title V?
I wasn't aware of the Board of Health comment. This doesn't add a bedroom; it adds a kitchen and dining area off the back, so it would not impact the septic flow. They did go in front of the zoning board, and the zoning board did approve the project.
Okay, I'd confirm with the Board of Health. Yeah, I'm not sure if the kitchen does or does not impact the septic. I think.
Yeah, sorry, Jeff, that was in my comments with the bedroom. That was Board of Health's comment. They just wanted to know if the addition was going to result in an additional bedroom, which sounds like it's not. So it doesn't need to go to Board of Health for any bedroom count review because the septic's only for 3 bedrooms.
Okay, great. Thank you, Charlotte, for clearing that up. Charlotte, is there anything else we should be thinking of for this project before we turn it over to the commissioners?
So as Jeff mentioned, no work in the 50. With the septic, leaching field, and tank in the back, and also around the right side of the back of the home, there's a huge ledge outcrop. So you kind of already have a limit of work set up. I asked that they just kind of pull up the erosion barrier a little bit, just so you don't have excavation equipment obviously going over tank and leaching field, which obviously wouldn't be good for anybody. No work near that large 60-inch tree in the corner of the house. So they're going to be limited in terms of construction entrance. They're obviously going to be going around the left side of the house, which it looks like it's wide enough, 14.5 feet from the corner. So I think you can get an excavator through there to put in, you know, the machinery. And I think the limit of work is confined obviously to the back of the home and, you know, things maybe in the front with the existing driveway. Just a general comment, obviously, that this permit, if it was approved, no works allowed in the 50, including staging, stockpiling, tree removal, any of that stuff. So I think that's pretty straightforward, but if you want a condition on it, we can do that too.
Thanks, Charlotte. Commissioner Bell.
No, I don't have any comments or questions.
Commissioner Berrigan.
No questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Magnell.
I've got no questions either. Seems pretty straightforward.
Commissioner McIntyre.
No, I don't have any questions.
I just have one moment. I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, I don't have anything additional. I appreciate Charlotte's post condition. I think we might want to make, actually make it a condition, although it is pretty straightforward. Just make sure the erosion control and the limit of work is respected and doesn't get further. You are getting pretty close to the 50 there.
Oh yeah.
But with that,
I did write something. I can just pull it up briefly. Jeff.
Yeah, you have a condition there. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, one sec. It's kind of like no brainer, but take it or leave it. Oh, did I just close out of it? Hold on. Probably.
Well, the condition is no work, equipment, and storage of construction materials shall be allowed within the 50.
Yep, that was it.
Yeah, and then the erosion control barrier may be extended at the direction of the conservation agent should any damage or erosion for construction be witnessed on site. So basically,
hopefully we don't have to do that, but obviously if we see a bunch of stuff moving around, because there's a lot of, it's a nice forested property. So I mean, wooded property, sorry. So I guess, obviously it's pretty straightforward where they have to go, but in case they spread out and do stuff, we may have to revise the erosion barrier as needed, but kind of a straightforward no-brainer assumption with the project.
And we're pretty confident that there's not going to be any jeopardizing any of the trees or anything that are there, given where the work is on that side of the house.
I'm confident.
I know in the past
there aren't any trees in the way of getting around, and all the work is in the lawn area.
Did you have a question, Mike? You have your hand raised.
Oh, I just wanted to say that no, we don't plan on taking any of the trees down or any of the shrubbery. We have a beautiful magnolia there now, and that'll be very priority to keep protected, and a large oak in the back that we won't touch either. And then as far as the 50-foot setback, those areas are almost inaccessible to excavators. The ledge is very exposed. So yeah, we'll definitely, I have utmost confidence that we'll stay out of those zones, and everything will be to the left side of the property.
And we'll keep the sock and whatever,
yes,
erosion control, make sure nothing seeps down that ledge into the back. Are you concerned that there's any of the trees that maybe should have something built up around them to protect them during construction, or are they all far enough away? I mean, it's your property.
Yeah, I think we'll probably have to do some protection for the magnolia. Probably do the 2x4s, wrapped around the base, but nothing other than that.
Okay.
And I had to step away for a moment, but I just wanted to be clear too. It wasn't clear in the plan here, but we're also planning on demolishing the existing house and going up 2 stories. I don't know. I was explaining it yesterday. But again, same footprint, and we're maintaining the existing foundation, so we're not going any bigger there.
All right, so that wouldn't involve any additional site work.
Exactly.
Yeah. So no. You're not like ripping up the foundation or anything. You're just building from the foundation up. Yeah, in theory, that obviously it's outside of our purview if you're staying with
okay. I just wanted to be.
No, thank you for clarifying. Yeah, it's kind of a gray area, but if you're working from an existing foundation up, arguably that's kind of outside of our jurisdiction, unless you're expanding, like any decks or screen porches or things like that. But yeah, any changes to the ground, the foundation, any grading, obviously that would all be subject to our review.
Okay,
But
awesome.
yeah, and
Thank
you're replacing
Actually-
it in its existing footprint, so you wouldn't need a stormwater permit unless you're obviously moving the entire house or changing the layout of the house. So I don't think you would be subject to a stormwater permit there with your building in the exact same foundation. So
Okay, great. Awesome.
That does raise the issue of what the actual limit of work is, though.
oh, okay, yeah. I don't know. Maybe
and
maybe
we
pull
need
up
to-
the plans again.
Yeah, pull up the plans again. We need to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually thought you were joking when you said that, given what we were discussing. So yeah, let's let Tom sort of ask the questions here, because I think he hit on it.
So
So,
Charlotte, why don't we extend the erosion barrier?
Yeah,
8 feet maybe or so around the side to allow room for, foot traffic around the foundation, but no machinery.
okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, I'm changing my conditions here.
Oh, good. I'm glad I mentioned it then.
No, thank you for doing that.
it would have been, it would have come as a real surprise to us, I would say, if we thought you were just gonna do a screen porch and we saw the house raised. So, and rebuilt. So, yeah.
Yeah, and again, keeping the existing foundation, it's a slab on grade, so we're actually not going down any further. And like Jeff said, the new or the expansions will be, all sonotube or just to frost depth. So no major digging going on.
Okay, so we need to see a new limit of work
Sure.
here. I suppose before we approve it. Unless you want to sketch it in there, Jeff?
Yeah, I would just draw a line 6 feet
yeah,
off the house like
yeah.
that. And then
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And put it
I mean,
before the cluster of trees and stuff, but
And
that
I'll-
should give you enough room.
Or like
Yeah,
that.
and I'll note right on the plan to be reconstructed on same.
Okay.
time.
I don't want to be difficult, but I mean, it's definitely not what was noticed, right? What was noticed was removing the screened-in porch and a proposed addition, not raising the house, right? So, and then the project summary, it doesn't talk about, in the actual NOI application, it doesn't talk about demolishing the house either. I mean, it is a different project than was what was noticed and considered in anticipation of the meeting. I'm not, I'll defer to the rest of the commission as to how we want to handle that. And given the fact that it's on the existing foundation, it doesn't raise all the same issues, but at the same time, I'm not sure it's exactly whether any public was paying attention or not, what they were told we were going to be discussing here tonight.
I think that you should submit a revised plan, and it does need to be announced.
I mean, I would concur. I don't know, it's definitely a different project than what was proposed. And I appreciate you being forthright about it, Mr. Haggerty. But it's definitely a different project than what we have on.
Yeah, I guess that kind of does. The public notice I wrote was obviously just about the addition.
Well, it's also
But the
it's not
public
just
notice-
yours, it's also in the narrative too, Charlotte. It's not
Oh,
just
is
what
it in
you
the
wrote.
narrative? I'm sorry. Is it in the narrative?
the
for the
narrative-
NOI?
It's not in the narrative.
No,
That's,
it's not in the narrative is what I'm getting at. It's not
Right.
you who wrote the notice.
Yeah, no. I just
incorrectly.
meant for the public notice. Yeah, because we wrote just like removal of screen porch and deck with replacement of an addition. So we didn't write in the public notice raise and rebuild of the existing home on its foundation or something.
well,
But like, arguably that may or may not even have needed Concom review. But I don't know. It's up to the commission if you want to see a revised plan or if you wanted me to just deal with it with a condition. So.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is that rebuilding on the same foundation doesn't disturb the earth, so you don't actually
Yeah.
file a notice of intent for that.
but it is all part of one project. It's going to be concurrent, right, Jeff?
Yeah, it's all one project, but what I'm saying is that portion of the project doesn't need conservation approval. It would,
Arguably, yeah.
so I don't think it needs to be re-notified. I think it's just simply adding a note to the plan and wrapping the erosion barrier around.
What happened with the notification? Why didn't it include that? Because as you know, we we often have, we want to look at site plans, and the more work, the more concern we have with heavy equipment and that sort of thing. So what was the?
I mean, it's not in the project
And it
summary.
is within the 100-foot buffer. So at the very least, we should have been made aware of this.
Yeah, and I'll add it to the plan. Honestly, I didn't make this application myself, and I wasn't aware till just now myself. I don't know if the other engineers who worked on this, when we made the filing a few weeks ago, were aware. But ultimately, that portion of the project doesn't need an NOI filing.
I don't think, I think you should submit an amended plan and amended filing. It's going to be part of the record.
Is that something that can be done as a condition though?
I mean, from my perspective, when I read, 1.0 project summary, the property owner proposes to construct an addition and covered entry to the existing single-family home at 34 Brewster Road. That is an entirely different thing than we're tearing down the existing home at 34 Brewster Road. So for me, and I think as Commissioner McIntyre, points out, it's a whole different set of equipment and a whole different set of thoughts for us. And I appreciate the fact that there's ledge and it's you're not going to have any equipment getting back there anyway, but it is within the 100 and you're tearing down a whole home. I'd like to see, a new submission and a new notice. I think that's appropriate.
I don't even think it's.
I don't know about a new
The public
submission, but
notice
certainly
needs
an
to be-
amendment to the existing.
Or an amended submission. Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry.
Okay, when's your next meeting?
January 9th.
I thought you were going to say that.
Yeah. We wouldn't have had a quorum for the 19th. That's too close to the holidays. And I don't think anybody would have wanted to show up to that meeting anyway.
Okay.
I mean, the issue is, it's good that we caught it now, right? As Commissioner Bell said, if we thought you were constructing a screened-in porch and then the whole house came down, it's a small town. We all drive by all these things and see what's going on, and it could have turned into a much greater debacle than just resolving it now with an amended application. So I think this was the right way to proceed.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like that's the consensus. So I'll request a continuance to the 9th, and we'll get a revised plan into you ASAP.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff.
Before we continue, I guess with the erosion control that Jeff drew, that seemed like that was sufficient for me. I just didn't know if that was okay to the commission, but other than just noting the raise and rebuild, the modifying the erosion control, maybe adding a note about any tree protection barriers as needed, especially around the magnolia. Was there anything else that the commission would want to see on the plans?
Well, there are some trees there that are in close to the 50, but up against that ledge on the east side, if this is at least plan east. And so those should have the same sorts of protection that's been proposed, 2x4s strapped to the trunks.
Those are rhododendron bushes.
Oh, they are. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, I would just note that there are BMPs for tree protection, which if you're having a lot of heavy equipment in there, it would, you'd fence off the root area, good portion of the root. It's not required, but we would be looking after the fact if the trees die. So it's the trunk is one thing, but you really want to avoid driving a lot of heavy equipment over the roots, because that'll kill the tree as well.
Yeah, usually we have, I think Jeff, you've seen it before. We have like a drip line barrier, to protect the root crown, pretty much up to the drip line. We've done that for other sites, I think on like 83 Atlantic Ave and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it seems like you have room, obviously, because you have the existing driveway and, hopefully, give the tree a little bit of a barrier. It should be okay. And then if nobody goes past limit of work, then we're good.
Yeah, I guess on any updated plans, given the significantly increased scope of the work, not area, but maybe just where the staging area is going to be, where the debris is going to go. Just make sure that because a lot of this is happening within the 100. I'd like to see that we're going to protect the resource area. thoroughly. And I mean, Jeff's a professional, and this was sort of news to him, and hate to surprise him, but I think he knows what we're looking for as well. So
Yeah, it's like staging, stockpiling.
Yeah,
Just clarifying
exactly.
the driveway will probably be used as the construction entrance. Whether or not you need to stabilize one, I'll defer to Jeff. So.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. With that, this hearing will be continued until December 9th or January 9th, 2025.
Oh, and I'm so sorry, Mr. Chair. So are we sending out a new notice, or are we just clarifying it on the plans and coming back?
I think a new notice would be appropriate before the next hearing. I do. I mean, we
Okay.
have time for it. You know,
Okay.
your neighbor, when you tell your neighbor I'm building a screened-in porch and I'm actually tearing down my whole house, I think neighbors would want to know that. You know, maybe nobody cares, nobody sees, but I think, you know,
Yeah, so
a
the notice would only clarify the work within the 100-foot buffer, which it would include that. It wouldn't, obviously, I mean, I don't want to say half the home. I'm just going to say within the 100-foot buffer. And then it's not subject to a stormwater permit because they're building on top of the existing footprint of the home. So it would just be clarifying the work in the buffer zone, which I can do.
I will note that all of our neighbors have been notified already through the special permit process we just went through.
Yeah, for zoning.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly, which was approved on Tuesday.
And it did clarify with zoning that the home was getting raised and rebuilt?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess, Mr. Chair, I'll defer to you then if we think we need a new notice for conservation or if that's sufficient for zoning. I can go either way, so.
let's just do a clean notice that describes the project properly. Unless someone else on the, I mean, I'm just one commissioner, right? Unless someone else on the commission objects. I mean, it's not a lot of work, right? It's just it's a new notice, but I just hate this being in front of us when it's just not described. It's just so divergent from what's actually described on the notice.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, we have time, Jeff.
Yep. Okay. We can take care of that. I don't think there's a
Well,
lot.
thank you for your
I don't
time.
think
Yeah.
there's a lot of abutters, so yeah, that's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you all for your time, and we'll see you on January 9th.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me
All
see what
right.
we got next.
So
Okay. So yeah.
I don't think
Next we have the continued show cause hearing, right?
Yeah, and I don't think this app, I emailed them right after the last meeting and I just emailed them 20 minutes ago. I don't know if they're going to show up. That's up to you guys.
I mean, if I wasn't at the last meeting, but just to refresh everybody's recollection, this is 45 Little Harbor, which was connected to the 44 Little Harbor removal. And I believe, there was the commission sought mitigation of 4 trees and 3 shrubs, and maybe they're, and it looked like I read some correspondence from the Lanudos, and they did pick some vegetation from the list. But I don't see how we can close the show cause without the applicant, telling us that they're gonna, without us coming to a final determination as to what we're gonna do here. Do any of the commissioners have any thoughts about how to proceed, or should we just, do we keep continuing this? Do we start issuing fines because they're not showing up or responding? Like, what do you guys want to do?
I'll do what you guys want. I mean, I am clearly emailing the owners just saying, hey, we continued this to December 5th. I can tell you when I sent that email. It was pretty much right after the meeting because, I emailed him during the meeting last time and I said, hey, are you going to join? And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I, missed it. And I said, okay, well, we continued it to December 5th. And I just emailed them again. I said, hey, you're going to be at the meeting.
Well, yeah, so you emailed them during the last meeting. So you had a couple weeks to know about this one. I mean, I'm not exactly sure the best way to proceed. I mean, they cut down trees without permission. And it sounds like there was sort of an innocent owner defense, which maybe has evaporated, and particularly given the fact that they're not, coming to help us resolve how to deal with this. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Commissioner Bell, how do you think we should go?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like the last time he didn't have it on his agenda, his calendar, which was a mistake. And he's like, I'm very sorry, very embarrassing. Did we continue to November? I emailed them back on the 25th and said, yes, we continued the discussion to 12/5. I did let them know that the commission wanted to see 4 instead of 3 trees and preferably keep the shrubs and or replace with the 4th tree. We, figured it might be best just continue so we can finalize it at the next meeting, and said, obviously happy Thanksgiving. And I emailed them.
Did he acknowledge the
tonight.
December 5th date? Did he ever acknowledge the December 5th date?
No, he didn't reply to that email. So unless he meant to and forgot, I don't know. And then I emailed him, 20, 30 minutes ago. I said, hey, are you going to be there? Because I don't see him in the audience. So, I mean, up to you guys. I mean,
Charlotte, I think you just resend it.
Yeah, resend a
Change
show
the
cause
date.
notice. Yeah,
And put a
warning.
a read request on it.
A
to see
what?
if it's a read request on the email to see
Oh,
if he actually
yes.
reads it.
Read request email. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I want to make sure people see things, I mean, for me, especially now that I've got a single usable hand for the computer, I get so far behind when people put timely or, response required in capital letters and brackets in
Yeah.
the subject line. That jumps out at me. I mean, if we want to just, before we take any further action or worry about the fact that they're ignoring us after cutting down trees impermissibly, maybe we give them till January 9th.
Yeah.
But maybe maybe put something in caps in the subject line too. I don't want to cramp your style, tell you how to do that
Yeah.
sort of thing. But
I think that's fair, because from my perspective, like in my brain, I'm like, oh, why aren't you responding to my email? And I'm like, I have been sitting on emails for over 3+ weeks, so I should talk.
yeah. No,
I don't think you should do anything in all caps, and there's no need.
okay.
Like a response required.
No,
Like
just in the subject line. I'm not saying the email needs to be screaming, but I usually write timely, like in caps.
Yeah, like response
Yeah.
required. I can also
Just give
have
it the
a note.
exclamation point, just like,
Yeah.
give it a little high importance, and then,
I
Yeah.
can also specify that this will be the last time the commission continues the show cause, I mean, I can put a little bit of a fire, I mean, I'm willing to be nice, but my patience is also wearing thin, because, this guy did say at first he didn't know. I heard from other sources that he did. So, I mean, that's all hearsay. I can't take anyone's word for it, but I mean, I think it was really just a fluke that he didn't see the first email. And then maybe, like I said, I've been sitting on emails for weeks, so I get it, but also it is also sent right after Thanksgiving or right before Thanksgiving. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to make excuses for anybody or myself. So, I mean, I think just continue.
I think just knowing whether he's read it or not is
Will
good
be
enough.
sufficient.
And
Yeah,
if it
maybe
turns
he
out
has
he's read it
Yeah.
and doesn't show up for the 9th, then maybe we'll get a little more serious about it.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Give him one more chance after the holidays.
After the holidays, right?
Yeah.
Right.
We're pretty much shutting down, obviously, anyway, and
Yeah.
gearing up for January. So, okay. I'll send a red request email.
All right. Okay, so that solves that. So we're just we'll continue that till January 9th, and Charlotte will reach out. So Charlotte, you have some construction updates for us?
Yeah, and the COC, I did hear from the engineer. He unfortunately has not had time to finish the as-built. That's really, honestly, my main concern for this one. There was just a lot of things that I felt like needed to be on the as-built, given with the size and complexity of this project. So continuing to January 9th as well for that. Moving on to construction updates. 150 Howard Gleason Road. This was it's the Bellarmine property. They did put in the post and wire fence. I walked the site with the contractor and the applicants. As we know, it was tight from what you guys saw at the site walk. We pretty much put it as right at the edge of the toe of the slopes of the ledge outcrops. So not technically in the wetlands, but pretty much right on that line. So they're not technically in the wetland, but they're pretty much right there. We didn't have the room to obviously do the 5 to 8 feet spacing for everything, especially with that massive mountain in the middle. So what they're going to do is they're going to do the post and rail from where you guys saw it at the front of the property up to like I can show you guys on the plans, but it was like flag 33, and then we skip it over the giant mountain ledge and then come back. And then we did actually end up going, it is on the plans, but we went down all the way to the beach, right at the limit of the Phragmites. And then they already did that work, so that's great. And they will be working on the gate. And obviously, as we were walking out there, of course, more people walking the property without permission. So maybe once the gate goes up, who knows? I don't know. But they're pretty much almost done with that project, and then they'll give us an as-built. So they have been following their permit. I'll go to 26 Lamberts Lane a little bit. 15 Whitehead. They recently did blasting. I don't know if you guys remember, that was a stormwater permit with a giant house on the ledge. Right as you turn onto Whitehead Road, it's up on the right. They had to do a lot of blasting for that site. Definitely scared a lot of people. So I'm walking the site tomorrow with the engineer to make sure all the barriers are in control, because it's getting wetter out there. There was a sign that was posted out for the property mailbox or something, and I know it upset some neighbors. It is right at the limit of the BVW, but John, the building inspector, issued a signage permit for it because it's only a temporary structure, so it will be taken out. I did make it clear to the contractor and the engineer that if they take that heavy sign out, if there's any damage, with the area along Atlantic Ave and or the wetland, they're going to have to obviously fix that. So, I mean, we'll figure it out. I'll check out the site, see if it's an issue or not. Turkey Hill, I'm going to the site tomorrow. They did spray, not spray, but they did the herbicide application for the Phragmites only. They have not yet had time to mow. They plan to do that the second they get more of a dry spell in the winter or early spring. I know that may or may not be dry, so they may have to wait until longer, but they pretty much were able to get the first application of herbicides done, and that's about it. But they do still plan to do the biannual mowing as per plan. So I'm going out to the site tomorrow morning to kind of walk that with Wayne from the trustees and see what we're working with. 472 King Street. They are pretty much done with the house. They have to install the gutters and connect them all to the downspouts. The infiltration systems are in. Final grading is pending, of course, landscaping. So I'm going to be going back out there in the spring to look at the landscaping and where they're going to plant the trees in the buffer zone. The North Main ball fields, they were supposed to start last week, but they might have obviously, of course, everyone's Thanksgiving. So they're going to start the drainage project for the North Main ball fields with the parking lot and redoing those parking lots, adding drainage. There was only an outlet pipe that was going into the 100-foot buffer, and it's all groundwater. So they did mark out on site where that's going. They might just shift it a little bit to avoid a small tree cluster because we didn't allow any trees to come out there. And then last but not least, Lamberts Lane. Oh, interesting. No members of the public. So after months of review, we have finally gotten an approved work plan. As you know, this project was the redevelopment of an abandoned dumping ground in the riverfront. We finally have a work plan from the professionals. Pam has looked at it as the Board of Health Director, John, the building inspector, myself, conservation. So we've all looked at it. At one point, they tried to take out that they weren't removing any soil, and we were like, absolutely not. You have to remove the contaminated soil that you said was contaminated. So they're going to be doing, really sufficient testing. The Board of Health Director was actually quite impressed. She said they're going with like the higher standard of a cleanup like this. And they're going to be removing the soil, taking it off site. They're going to be obviously not having a dumpster in the riverfront. They will need to be using excavation equipment, obviously, to clean up that area, but that's all been clarified of what they can and can't do. They can't store anything in the riverfront. It all has to be taken off site. He is not allowed to do anything on that site until the site is clean and inspected by all of us. And the building commissioner has not issued any building or demo permit for the existing home. The applicant still has to go to the sewer commission to get permission to install sewer for the two homes in the riverfront, because the way the sewer maps are mapped out right now, half of his properties are in the sewer district, the other half are not, and they're in septic, and you can't put septic on that site based on prior testing. So he's going to town meeting, I believe, to request permission to move the sewer district line to the edge of the parcels in the riverfront. So we'll see if sewer commission and town meeting grant that. I don't know. So yeah, he's got a long way to go, but I'm glad he finally has a work plan of how he's going to clean up the site. So we'll see how that goes. I'm going to the site on Monday morning with everybody. It's going to be a nice big party. So, Yeah, I'm really not
Don't go
looking
there
forward to this. but- I'm not looking forward to this project, but I'm glad he finally has a work plan. And I'm not going to that site by myself, as you guys
Yeah,
know.
don't go there alone.
Absolutely
Yeah.
not. No, no, I'm not being misquoted anymore. And other updates, conservation restrictions. I think CCT mentioned this to you guys at the last meeting, but Valerio, just wanted to catch you up. The Cohasset Conservation Trust, they presented a conservation restriction, which we approved, and obviously you guys all signed. Moving forward, CCT has a new president. Well, she's always been a member she's been a member for a while, but she's the new president is Sarah Karen. So we're meeting in January, probably on the 23rd. They're going to go over all of the CCT properties that have conservation restrictions, which ones do, which ones don't, which CRs are held by the town versus CCT, which ones are town property. So they're going to give us a nice summary in January. I'm going to email the state for a list of all recorded conservation restrictions in Cohasset, because a handful of them may not even be CCT. We have that weird one a couple of years ago that was off of Cedar Street. So there might be a lot of them. There might be none. I don't know. So I'm going to get that information as well on my end. And then moving forward, I'm going to work with the town and with CCT to monitor these properties, because that's what we were supposed to be doing this whole entire time. And obviously Cohasset and nobody obviously did that consistently or ever. So moving forward, I will be doing that. It's honestly not a big deal, because it was supposed to be it was part of the reason why I accepted this job, to be honest with you guys. I wanted land management experience. So it's taken me 3 years to finally get there. And then the revised fee schedule, I mentioned this, but I didn't have time to update it tonight, but I will definitely try to get it done for the either January meeting, because I want that to be effective. And I mentioned this to, I think Valerio and Chris, but we're supposed to be charging $100 for variance requests for every single project, and that's never been done. It wasn't in the fee breakdown, but it was in our fee schedule. So yeah, finally learned that. So that needs to be on there. And then I'm going to increase fees for most of the projects, except for like the simple ones. And then the tree policy stuff, I'll try my best to get that to you guys. Hopefully within the next 2 weeks, so that you guys at least have, a couple weeks to maybe a month plus to look at the changes, and we can put it on a January or early February meeting. And yeah, and then the only 48-hour update I had was, as you guys may or may not have heard, Town Hall is getting a new roof, and they will be doing roof construction next Tuesday through Friday. So I will need to be remote. They're closing Town Hall to the public, obviously, because of safety issues. So I'll be at the Town Hall on Monday to do, obviously Lambert's Lane site inspection, a few other things, but I'll be remote. So we're still functional. We're just not going to be in the office. It may or may not be longer, but I hope it doesn't take any longer than 4 days plus a weekend, but I guess you'll see, it's weather dependent. So in the meantime, that'll be great downtime for me to work on all that stuff that I just said. So yeah.
Great. Thanks, Charlotte.
Yeah, that's all I had for you guys.
Anyone else?
Oh,
Have anything?
sorry.
Yeah,
The last
please.
thing is I have a huge backlog of violations again, so I will do my best to space those out. Yeah, this might be a pattern for me, because it's very time consuming to write those letters, even though I have a template. Every site's different. So yeah, because we have the one that Will told us about. We have a few follow-up ones. We have one on Black Horse. We have the people that have been spraying on Atlantic Ave and Sheldon Road. So there's a little bit of a backlog there, but I figured obviously.
Did we have that violation tracker too that we talked about many moons ago?
Yeah, so I have to update that. I was going to update that for the end of the year and maybe put it on for a slow meeting in the winter. But the people that came to us tonight, they were not on the tracker. So at least, we can note that.
Could you circulate a link to that again? I apologize, but it might be helpful for me anyway. And I'm not trying to make you update that. I leave this to you.
No, I should be updating it. I have a reminder to do so, and I just don't do it sometimes because I'm busy. But yeah, I quarterly, we agreed as a commission that I would be giving that to you guys and presenting it at the end of the night. So I can do that maybe for early February, because CCT is coming to us in January. So maybe I can put it on for February. And we can go through the tracker, give, just allot some time at the end of the night to just go through our violations. Luckily, a lot of them have either been resolved or they're actively working on it. So there's only a few from before I started that I still need to backtrack and look into, but I do have to update the tracker with all the stuff from the last 6 to 8+ months. So I have to add all the recent stuff that we just put on. So
We should start dinging everybody the $100 a day, and then we could pay for the new town hall that everybody wants.
Yeah,
that
right.
Nobody wants to pay for.
yeah, right. I'm sure the town will love that. Yeah, that's another thing. The finances with conservation, I can't even explain it to you guys because it makes my head spin, but we're supposed to have a fund for us to be able to do things like go to conferences, take trainings, hire professional consultants to look at certain things like bylaws. The way the town accounts are set up is everything gets taken out for my salary and the other stuff we can't use. And I'm like, I don't understand why it's set up that way. The financial stuff, and I won't even get into it. It's such a nightmare. And it's not even just my department, although my department's pretty bad. But sadly, long story short, conservation doesn't have its own budget, even though we should. So I'm still trying to work with the town on that to try and change that so that we have a little bit more freedom to do what we're supposed to be doing as a board. It's just, I have no idea how long that's going to take because I've been talking about it for over a year with people and I've gotten nowhere. I've talked to the building inspector, the finance director. I've gone down to the accountants several times. I just don't know how I can change that, but I'll keep trying. But we're supposed to have our own budget. Everybody else.
I know that we want a 23-foot center console with twin 250s on the back so that we can see these projects from the water. Chris and I have been pushing for that. So
we could give ourselves a show cause for not maintaining the rain gardens that we're responsible for.
Yeah, right. We need a drone. I would love a drone. I know Nearmap's pretty good already, but it would be nice to have a drone. Can play the Darth Vader music and scare people if they're cutting down trees. But yeah, so
well, I appreciate everybody's time tonight. Unless there's nothing else, we could entertain a motion to adjourn. And thanks a lot, Charlotte.
Yeah, no, this is awesome. 8:30. You guys are great. That was awesome. Short agenda, but still.
Great. Any motions to adjourn? Second?
Second.
Voice vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. The hearing for December 5th, 2024 is now closed.
See you next week. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Yeah, you guys deserve a break. So
Thank you. Thanks, Charlotte.
All right.
Thanks, guys. I hope you feel better by the time we see you guys next time. I know you got your cast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, guys.
All right.
Have a good
Take care,
night.
guys.
Happy holidays.
Yeah.
Bye.
Good night, all.